Alright everybody, welcome back in. I'm Algorithmore and this is Stormgate. And playing this Stormgate game is NoveaStar in the Blue Infernal. And if you have not had a chance yet, you should go check out NoveaStar's stream. She streams pretty regularly and shows off her fun Infernal playstyle, so check her out. And her opponent this game, Archship flying home, flying back, already did his business. This is Light. Lighto. Makes me think of Death Note. Isn't that the name of the character in Death Note? Light. It's been a while since I watched that series. But this was an interesting play. I wanted to mention it. It was a second Archship. That was the first thing. That's not the first thing. I lied because I wasn't following. It looks like maybe the first thing built was the Purifier, and then the Array, and then the other Archship possibly. Maybe I got those in the wrong order, but a second Archship is an interesting play here. Now, Archships no longer make prisms. I used to be a huge advocate for second Archship for accelerated prism creation. I also love this from Novea as the early scout fiend. She must have split a brute. I think she just made a brute and split it, and I love that. Where did the other fiend go? Oh, is that the same fiend? I don't know. But this is to counter, you no longer have that scout hexen, so instead you can split a brute and send some fiends. It helps you get an idea of what's going on. It looks like it was two fiends. Both of them get taken out here, but get that early information. Now she's got a little creeping force, and she can certainly get to action here on her speed camp or health camp if she wants. And we got Argents coming out here from Light to get started, and another Morphcore. I think we're looking at another base here. And this is almost looking like old Celestial build, where you're going for as many arrays as possible early on, and then once your economy is up, you just go, what, like Argent crazy maybe? Because he is on Creation Chambers here, although we see Kree coming out. So this might be a Kree opening, which is still viable in this matchup, where often it ends up being a harass-based kind of opening, where you try and get some eco damage done. Killing imps. Roll out stun, as we see that Kree roll out of the chamber. And remember, Prime Structure has been taken away, so the units come out of the structure that they are built in now. And we're up to 5 Kree, while creeping has begun for Novea. She's also gone for a third base here. Oh, already got double Spire coming down. Has the Hellforge with the Brute upgrades, the Infernal Fury on the way. And is, wow, okay, another Spire. Going massive Spire play here. And I think she's putting down a couple Shroud Stones also is... that these Shroud Stones are going to be really helpful if the Krees try to do a run by. There's some well-positioned farms here as well to help mess with their pathing a bit. So that's good defensive play. But Light has not yet pushed those Kree across the map to try and get any of that harass in. And that means it might be missing out on that window just a little bit. Doing pretty good to saturate the bases. Is this base? Oh, Light is trying to get that eco advantage as much as possible, up to almost 4 bases here. 3 saturated almost. And Novea is also trying to saturate this base, but more farms. Does she need those farms? Yes, she does. So I'm like, are those just defensive farms or are those supply farms? They are indeed supply farms. And wow, we've got our Shadow Cleft done. We're at the 5-minute mark. Shadow Cleft done. And a bunch of Shadow Flyers and Spriggies popped out. A couple more Sprigs. And the Shadow Flyers can be good harass against Prisms, of course. But there's no Air Force out yet for Light, so it's not there to counter Sides, for instance, or Seraphim possibly, or something else. And Novea's got, okay, her Air Force is hanging in the back, her land army is up front in a defensive position, and she's gone for her 4th base at the Therium. And now we're seeing her Air Force do something. They're going to move somewhere. We'll keep an eye on them. Is Light ready for this? He mostly has a ground army. There are some Argents there, but look, there are strike nodes. Is this a blast node? Yeah, a strike node. So both factions here have opted for pretty strong defensive building in their own base, but we'll see what these Spriggans are able to do. Finding actually a vulnerable position here, getting one of the prisms right away, and quite easily taking out that base and running away as the Argents show up. Now Argents, they do shoot up, but they're not the best anti-air because they're kind of slower, so they can't really chase the Spriggans around the map. You kind of have to deal with the Spriggans by splitting your army a bit and relying on that static D. I'm like, are these Krees really going to try and come and deal with the Spriggans? Because now that Spriggans produce 2 at a time and are like half as effective, you get this big swarm of Spriggans, which I kind of like. I'm not sure how it interacts completely right now, like with things, for instance, like sky mines. They're way more vulnerable to sky mines, I think. But just the idea of seeing a kind of a swarm of them, and when they all got their fluttery wings like that, looks pretty cool. I'm not a huge fan of air units in general, but I do think the Spriggans look pretty cool. Now we got Sides out. There are a few Shadow Flyers in that mass, but it doesn't look like they're on a separate control, which is fair. Most players do not separate all their units into different control groups. That means you need to control click on them if you want to select them specifically. But it's Air Force for Novea here. She has a ground force, mostly brutes, a few gaunts that are, it looks like here, meant to defend in case of a honest to goodness push. But otherwise she's got this massive flock of Spriggies, and she's circling back around, but this base hasn't been rebuilt. And Spriggans actually do very well against static D, and I think these Spriggans might even do well against those Sides if they can find them in a position where they're not being protected by the Argents. Even more Spriggies showing up, so she's very committed to this force, and she's not overcommitting yet. Like, I kind of want to see how these Spriggans do in a fight against this army, although this is a pretty good army. We see the Animancers. They are good answer to the Spriggans, because the Spriggans bundle up so much, especially when they flock together. You know, what do they stack? When they stack on each other, the Animancers can drop a nice Dark Prophecy on them and effectively get all these Spriggans. In fact, we're at risk of seeing this right now. And I like how Light has come here and said, well, let me soak up all this sweet energy for the Argents, of course, making them at max power, but then those Animancers are ready to drop those Dark Prophecies. I almost want to see an Unseen Veil. If you want to chase those Spriggans down, you got to be invis, although There's still shadow flyers with him? Yeah, there are still shadow flyers, so the invisibility won't help yet. Oh, couple Spriggans go down for free. 3, in fact. Because they are squishier now, and the size are intended to deal with that. Okay. Now the land army has been brought out too. There's a dragon with. I think you need everything together. Yeah, the Spriggies come in as well, though a nice kind of flank could work here. Oh, this could look really well for Novea. But Light doing a good job of saying, I'm not going to be flanked here. I'm going to try and pull out huge Dark Prophecies. Look at how many dead bodies there were. Those mostly Spriggans? Yeah, I think a huge block of Spriggans went down to Dark Prophecy there. Nice Dark Prophecies again. Now the Dark Prophecy's been changed a little bit. If I remember correctly, it does most of its damage at the end there, where it does that little exploding animation. Whoa, I'm sorry for that little bug there. But yeah, those Dark Prophecies were super clutch, as Novea had her whole army basically wiped, including that entire air force of Spriggans. And using Evolution Catalyst here to quickly claim the healing camp and heal back up. Gotta move these lovely ladies in there and get their health up as well. Because for Light right now, that was probably the best possible outcome, to wipe out so many of those units. I don't want to say for free, but when you're wiping out units with Dark Prophecies, it kind of feels like it's for free almost, because the damage is coming from the spell. Brutes take out the Luminite camp. I don't know if this army here really wants to deal with those Brutes, although it's hard for me to tell because Dark Prophecies are punishing, and there are a couple Sabers there, and Sabers also deal some pretty good damage. And now it's Scythes chasing away Spriggans. And Scythes are meant to do AA, anti-air. So I don't think the Spriggans really want to turn and fight that. I'm not super certain, to be honest. There are, what, six Scythes there. There are more over here just chilling. I'm not sure what that's about. Scythes going down. 2 or 3 go down. And the Brutes are here for moral support, because they cannot jump or throw their swords into the air. Those swords are so giant that compared to these scythes, if you could throw that sword at the scythe, the sword's like as big as the wing. So maybe the Brutes should just put in a few more upper body days so they can whip those swords up into space. Just like the Hellborn can shoot their basketballs into space. You might be able to tell that I am an Infernal fan, and so even though Infernals are OP right now, please buff them. Buff them for me. No, that would be bad for the game. That would be bad for the game. We're already in a state where the imbalance is making it hard for non-Infernal players to find the energy to go out on the ladder. And it's also getting just a little stale in the meta. Need that balance patch. Or need 0.5. Which is looking to be really good. Ooh, Invisible Kree. Invisible Kree, but you can be seen by Shroudstone. Still getting a lot of imp kills. Oh, lots of imps going down there. Now, thought there might have been a little counterplay here. But not, so a lot of imps went down there, maybe half of them. But I don't know if that's, there were like 6 or 7 Kree that went down as well, so it might not have been as effective as Light had hoped. The Light's cleaning up some effigies here and moving forward, getting ready, but Novea is looking like she wants to put a serious flank down on this army. He comes running here. Huge Dark Prophecies again. Major Dark Prophecies. Oh! The whole Air Force just deleted. Oh my goodness. Again, incredibly clutch Animancer play here. But these brutes managing to stay alive, and Animancer's down now. Sides above, they're great anti-air, but they're not so good against dealing with a ground army like this. Of course, they got air-to-ground attack, which means they're not vulnerable to the brutes, but the brutes are just like, we don't care. We're moving in. Look how many low brutes there are, and that's because of those Dark Prophecies from earlier doing that good splash damage. But remember, brutes explode into fiends, and fiends are pretty devastating. No fiend explosion yet. I said fiends or breach explode into fiends. I guess they really explode into fiends when they have fiend explosion, their tier 3 upgrade. And finally, we're seeing these sides clean up these units. But look at the gore here, but two, static D went down. Power banks went down, even some creation chambers went down, and now we got an Aeon Gate. I love it. Aeon Gate's the new celestial meta, as Arail taught us just last week. So maybe there will be some interesting play with that Aeon Gate coming out of Light. For the moment, it's the size that are keeping Light in this, although this slow sort of parade of units down from NoveaStar is starting to not work as well, as she has to run away from the sides, and there's a few other units here, sabers as well, and she's got another Air Force over here. So far her Air Forces have all gone down in these glorious bursts of blood to the Dark Prophecies. So are there more Animancers coming out? Because the Dark Prophecies are being what has been saving this for Light so far. And okay, we got a little engage here. This is ground army versus air army, though. The Sabers want to get the heck out of there because they don't want to fight those brutes, but they're so slow. They got to turn and fight. And that means they're going to go down, even though there's Sabers trying to support this above. Actually, Novea chooses to pull back, and it's Spriggans that show up. And the Spriggans actually are okay. They did okay there. I say that because they didn't all just explode in a giant bubble of blood like they have been. Archangels are pretty good against the Spriggan Air Force 2. We've got the Aeon Gate up, but I don't see it being used yet. Spriggan's coming out, trying to get more damage done. Ooh, they find a weak array here. We get a Sarvin's Watch, but it gets taken out pretty quickly. There's another base here, but she doesn't know about it, so she's flying away. And maybe wisely, as the defensive force of Light shows up. So Novea going to come back and retake her vision camp, while Light is hanging out in a defensive position here, trying to defend these bases, which are going back down. This base is also almost done. But, oh no! Lots of Shadow Flyers in this one to help deal with the size, I imagine. And no cancel on that base. Shadow Flyers smashing into prisms. I don't know if that's the right play, because you kind of want them to go against these sides. Problem with Shadow Flyers versus sides is the sides will trigger their shields as soon as they get impacted by Shadow Flyers, and that's going to reduce any damage from additional Shadow Flyers. So sides are pretty good against Shadow Flyers. And as we're seeing here, they're really good against the Spriggans too. Ooh, a couple good Shadow Flyer impacts there. More good ones. Okay. So I said it is a problem that they will activate their shields, but if their shields are on cooldown, now you can get some good trades. And that did kind of work out a little bit for Novea to at least reduce the scythe count, because the scythes were what we're dealing with her air force mostly. And now she's still, her ground force is still doing pretty strong. I'm not sure if she really wants to fight under the static D here. She decides the same thing. And it's Spriggans and Shadow Flyers out again. And I wonder if this is intended to be like a two-prong. Like I'll make you try and defend against these. Well, I'll send my army down to attack another base, which could work even better if she was attacking over here. Although look, that this looks like this base is already mined out. Scythes looking for those Spriggans, and the Spriggans could get a, oh no. Okay, did a good job of avoiding the Dark Prophecies again there. None were cast, but I think wisely being timid and not overcommitting with those units. And using her Air Force here to try and do a little bit of map control. Taking these Luminite towers, it's the Therium towers that might be more useful, and we see the size over here have captured this one. And now she's going for the healing camp. And Light is repositioning here, possibly to be defensive. Where did those Spriggans go? They're up here. Yeah, that Kree is not going to get it. Although the Spriggans got chased away by a single Kree. And are they going to take this health? It would be really good for her to retake that health camp. But she finds this base unprotected. Those are two blast nodes, which can't do anything against the Spriggans. And as the size show back up, the Spriggans wisely run away. There's an Archangel there too. A bunch of brutes on the ground, brutes and Gaunt's. Shadow Flyers show up to try and defend the Spriggies. Is this going to be a battle? Is this going to be our battle here? Huge battle. Spriggans and Shadow Flyers impact on the Air Force. But no, Light pulls back, not wanting to overcommit. And Tale of the Supply is, they're still fairly even. This has been a fairly even game. It's gone back and forth a little bit, but at the moment they're even. You got Brutes and Spriggans being the main choice from Novea, and this nice kind of mixture, which has actually been a good answer to this Brutes and Spriggan comp. Looks like Light is going to go for this, but that's going to make him just a little vulnerable, and we see as his Archangel gets taken out by the Shadow Flyers. That Archangel was kind of an important part of this composition. And this base, or this tower gets taken down while Novea is just waiting for a potential attack. Just trying to bait Light in. Light goes for that effigy. And now maybe Novea is impatient. Oh, another effigy gets taken out. A preemptive Dark Prophecy. And the Luminite base is taken by Novea. And it's at the top level. It's level 6, which means it's producing the highest amount of Luminite you can get out of it. I'm not even really sure how much that does produce every kick or every second. And you can see as the creeps get stronger, you see how much extra hit points they have. They deal more damage too, but they also give you more income when you kill them. Scout Brute comes by. We see that Fiend Explosion has now been researched, and the Brutes are going to come in. Light is in an interesting position. Did get a nice Dark Prophecy there. And, oh, again, some nice Dark Prophecies. Trying to zone the units. More Dark Prophecies. Oh, but there's just too much here. Too many brutes. And every brute that explodes into 4 fiends. And wow, the ground army just got deleted. There's so much gore there that's not just from the brutes and the fiends, though. A lot of that is that ground army that got deleted of light. And light only has the size left and is in retreat. And I do think this could be it. Look at that swarm of fiends coming in. There's not enough size here to deal with it, although there are 2 blast nodes. Brigands come in to try and deal with the size, and indeed is able to, and light GG's out of this game, and good game to NoveaStar.